Welcome back everyone to Formula 1 Transfer Talk, and goodness me, do we have some spicy stories to get through today. Lots of talk coming into this weekend, lots of transfers on the horizon. I for one thought a lot of the big stories this season with the Formula 1 silly season had come to a close. Vettel moving to Aston Martin, Carlos Sainz to Ferrari, Daniel Ricciardo to McLaren. And though we've got a couple of seats still available at Alfa Romeo and Haas, it appears that seats that we all thought were guaranteed for next year, that might not be the case. And because we've got so many stories today, I just want to jump into it straight away. So, if you are new around here and you want to keep up to date with all Formula 1 2020-2021 news, reviews, transfers, all that good stuff, subscribe button is down below. But I want to start off with Williams, a team that has already announced its drivers for next season, George Russell and Nicholas Latifi. However, since that announcement, the team has got new owners. Dorilton Capital have come in, taken over the team, and are now starting this brand new push towards the front of the grid. A lot of us expected, with a great driver in George Russell and a solid driver in Nicholas Latifi and the backing he brings to the team, things would remain the same. Why would we think any different when contract is in place? And as far as lineups go, that's a pretty solid one for a team at the back of the grid to have. Well, this weekend, change could be on the horizon, with rumours circulating that Sergio Perez could be on his way to the Grove-based team. The Mexican driver, of course, at the moment is without a drive for next season, though there does appear to be options in IndyCar, also options at Haas and Alfa Romeo. But one thing that is for sure is that Sergio is adamant wherever he goes, whatever sport, whatever category, whatever team, he wants to be passionate about a project. At Haas, at Alfa Romeo, what are their aspirations, not only for next year, but for 2022? Are they going to be pushing the front of that midfield, making a challenge for podiums? I'm not too sure. IndyCar looks like there could be a seat at McLaren. Oliver Askew has just been fired, but it looks like Castro Neves, I believe, is taking that seat. Red Bull also could be an option if Alex Albon continues to struggle, and I'm sure if that offer is presented, Perez is jumping on that just like any driver would on the current grid. But if that doesn't come into play, what about the option at Williams? A team that has got new investment, new partners, new management, new leadership, a team that already in 2020 has made a massive step forward to the declines they had in 2018 and 2019. There's a project there. There's an objective to clearly get back into that midfield first of all, and then get back to the front. Sergio Perez would be a fantastic marquee driver, also a long-term driver, to put in that car and make Williams great again. George Russell, as we know, a fantastic driver, but realistically, Williams are only going to have him for one, maybe two more seasons at a push. And while a driver like Sergio Perez is on the market, from a Williams point of view, that's a really tempting option. And from Sergio's point of view, I think that Williams project is a real special one, and is one that in 2022 could take a lot of people by surprise. Williams could keep George Russell in that second seat alongside Sergio Perez. Side note, what an incredible driver lineup that would be for the team. However, the majority of sponsors currently on the car are owned by the Latifi family, and trying to persuade Nicholas to step aside for a season when, in all reality, he's been fairly solid for the team, whereas George Russell's only going to stay, for one more season? I can see that being very, very difficult. And so, though it would pain me so much to see George Russell step out of Formula 1 for a season, for the team, for Williams, I actually think this could be an incredible signing, and for Sergio Perez, I can see it being a very tasty and tempting deal indeed. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below, and looking at a lot of the other stories in today's transfer talk, there are seats everywhere. So many uncertainties in 2021, so I think George Russell, though a year out, could be likely if this deal went ahead. I don't think it's guaranteed. And the reason for that is something I'm calling the Gasly saga. Our brand new race winner in Formula 1, the driver that has taken 2020 by storm, could be on his way out of AlphaTauri and heading to Alpine for 2021 to partner Fernando Alonso at the brand new rebranded Renault team. This would mean that Esteban Ocon, along with George Russell, both Mercedes juniors, could be without a seat heading into next season. The saga doesn't end there, because taking Gasly's place is Yuki Tsunoda. Formula 2, Japanese young driver, a driver who's ready to make that step up to Formula 1, backed by Honda, but from all accounts inside Red Bull, that won't make any difference to his promotion next season. But the saga doesn't end there. Alongside Tsunoda at AlphaTauri could be one of two drivers. Danny Kvyat could remain at the team. We could also see Gasly stay at the team and Kvyat be taken out of the seat. But it's all going to depend on the big team, Red Bull and Alex Albon, a driver who has struggled in the last few Grand Prix, finally got that podium at the Tuscan Grand Prix, but disappointing performances at both Sochi and last time at the Nürburgring has put doubt once again into that seat for next season. And at the moment, if things don't turn around, Red Bull may be forced to make a switch. And if rumours are to believe this weekend, it looks like Nico Hulkenberg could be on his way to the team next season. I told you things were going to get crazy today. And that's the lay of the land with the Gasly saga. Hulkenberg to Red Bull, Albon and Tsunoda to AlphaTauri, Gasly to Alpine, Kvyat and Ocon out of a seat. Lots to get through here, but I want to start off with Nico Hulkenberg, our super sub for 2020. What an incredible performance. Driver of the day last time out at the Nürburgring. Called in at the very last moment. Only did qualifying Q1 and the race. A tremendous drive. Once again backing up the fact he deserves to be in Formula 1. He should be on our grid this season, yet alone next season. Red Bull need a driver they can rely on. At the moment, Alex Albon is not that driver. Just like Pierre Gasly with his short stint at the team, that consistency is seriously lacking. Not only in scoring points, not only in being close to Max Verstappen, but silly mistakes cost both drivers a lot of points. Hulkenberg, historically, as he's proved throughout his career in Formula 1, as well as this season, is a driver that is super duper uber consistent. And though he doesn't have that podium, he's not on the level of Max Verstappen, he's going to be able to bring Red Bull a bit of security, chances with Max Verstappen to make strategy gambles, gives them options during a Grand Prix weekend. Again, something they haven't had since Daniel Ricciardo left the team 2 seasons ago. Would Hulkenberg be World Championship driver potential? I don't think so, but that's not what Red Bull are looking for at the moment. They know 2022 is a brilliant opportunity to catch up and potentially overtake Mercedes. Will they be able to have that power if they've got a driver like Albon that just isn't producing those consistent results? Like I said with Williams, this year is a unique opportunity to sign up drivers for the long term that have great Formula 1 experience. Sergio Perez and Nico Hulkenberg, both of them, deserve to be in Formula 1 and should be in top seats. So Red Bull certainly aren't short of options for next season. Everything I've just said for Hulkenberg also fits for Sergio Perez. And for Alex Albon, a driver who, if he could just find that little bit more consistency, if he could finish these final 7 races, getting 4th and 5th in qualifying, 4th and 5th in the Grand Prix, and securing a top 5 finish in the driver standings, I think Red Bull should consider keeping him. If not, and if he's up and down, not quite sure where he's going to be each weekend, and continuing to be half a second off Max Verstappen in qualifying, take him back to AlphaTauri. Alex Albon is a solid Formula 1 driver. Give him a car which suits his driving style, like we saw at Toro Rosso, he can deliver the goods. Look at Pierre Gasly, who was promoted way too early. Look how AlphaTauri has reinvigorated his career. We could see a very similar thing with Alex Albon, but all of these switches are truly going to depend on how well Albon can end the season. At AlphaTauri then, if Alex does get the move back to his old team, if Pierre is moved on, we've got a seat available. And there's 2 drivers right on the cusp of securing it. First up, Danny Kvyat, the obvious choice, super consistent for the team over the last 2 years, of course securing that incredible podium at Germany last season. But there's no running away from the fact he hasn't been as good as his teammate this year. He's been very much in the shadow of Pierre Gasly, and whereas once Red Bull were considering bringing him back to the big team, instead choosing Alex Albon, I think that boat has very much sailed now, and for Danny Kvyat's longevity in Formula 1, I think his best option is to move away from the Red Bull family. Yuki Tsunoda, a hotshot in Formula 2, could very well not only be the future of AlphaTauri, but also Red Bull Racing. And if Mercedes do eventually decide to sign up Max Verstappen, Red Bull have got to have drivers ready to put into that number 1 role. And at the moment, they've got no one. If Hamilton retired at the end of next season, Max Verstappen moved to Mercedes, Red Bull are well and truly stuck. So they need drivers like Tsunoda to get into Formula 1, get into AlphaTauri, prove themselves, learn the sport, and then if Verstappen does move for whatever reason, they've got a driver ready to jump into that big team. If not, if they decide to keep Kvyat, if they leave Tsunoda for another couple of seasons and Max does leave, their only options will be to get a driver from outside of the Red Bull family, aka a Lando Norris maybe, a George Russell. Maybe they could get some kind of trade deal with Mercedes. Russell comes to Red Bull, Verstappen goes to Mercedes. That could work quite well, but they've got to give themselves options. And so for me, Tsunoda to AlphaTauri is a must for next season. And of course, the driver at the heart of the Gasly saga, why we're even talking about AlphaTauri Red Bull seats, is Pierre Gasly. The boy has been so good in 2020. He deserves a chance at another team, at a top team. He shouldn't be in a B team. He's won a Grand Prix, for crying out loud. And what a place to learn, what a place to develop at Alpine. The current Renault team that, if all accounts are to be believed and judging from their trajectory this season, could be a real challenger in 2022. And whereas Fernando Alonso is certainly coming to the end of his Formula 1 career, he could really teach Pierre the tricks of the trade, give him that little bit more of a sharpness, that little bit more of an edge that Fernando brings to a Formula 1 driver. Look at what he did to Lewis Hamilton in his first season. Look at what a driver Hamilton has blossomed into. I'm not saying Gasly would reach those levels, but I think certainly the mind games and trickery of Alonso would just give Gasly that extra little tool set in his back pocket. And when Alonso does eventually retire, whether it's 2022, 23, 24, whenever, Gasly would be in a prime position to be the lead of that team, potentially fighting for world championships. At AlphaTauri, is that going to happen? Probably not. Do Red Bull need that option to have Gasly there just in case Verstappen moves on? They really do. But from a Gasly point of view, is it worth the risk to stay within the family? They have made it known they would love Alex Albon to stay. They want Albon to be that number 2 driver. And wouldn't it be great for Pierre, who's won a race this season, to prove them wrong? To say, look, I can do it. I can be a driver at the top of our sport. I think it makes sense. It's going to take a lot for Red Bull to let go of him, but if they're not willing to put him in that top seat after everything he's done in 2020, I think it's time to move away. This would also lead to Ocon being without a seat for next season. He's been solid this year, just like Danny Kvyat, but certainly he's been in the shadow of Daniel Ricciardo, just like Kvyat's been in the shadow of Pierre Gasly. Ocon is learning a brand new team. He's learning the environment. He's up against Ricciardo, who seems to be in the form of his life, and it would be so unfair to get rid of Esteban this season. But when a Gasly's available, when you see how much Pierre has improved this season, he's in front of Ocon in the standings despite having far worse machinery, there's got to be questions asked. Ocon is not at the team long term currently. He's got a 2-year deal and is currently still managed by Mercedes. I can see why Renault, Alpine, whatever you want to call them, are seriously considering making a move for Pierre Gasly. And despite all those moves, despite the fact Kvyat and Ocon would be without seats, we still have seats unfilled on the grid. And that's where we're going to round up today's episode of Transfer Talk at those unfilled seats, Alfa Romeo and Haas. Alfa Romeo at this point seems all but done. Mick Schumacher making his debut next season. Kimi Räikkönen, somewhat surprisingly, looks like he's going to stay on for one more season. Awesome stuff. At Haas though, that seems to be the most undecided seats, yes, seats, both of them, I think we've ever seen in Formula 1. Grosjean and Magnussen, the current lineup, I think is fine. Grosjean, certainly coming to the end of his career, had his best race in years last time out at the Nürburgring, and actually 2020 has been one of his best seasons for a long time as well. Magnussen, solid as ever, but there's no getting away from the fact the team have gone backwards over the last couple of seasons, and I strongly believe a refresh, one new driver, two new drivers, is exactly what they need. Gunther Steiner, team principal, has been very open to the fact there is up to 10 drivers in contention for this seat, and I believe them. I just wonder how exciting of a project this Haas one is. We spoke about it with Sergio Perez. I think Williams could be more tempting than the Haas project. Hulkenberg, if he can't find a seat elsewhere, Haas have to take him. But then we look at those youngsters in Formula 2. We've spoken about it all silly season long. Callum Ilott, for one stage, appeared to be nailed on. But this weekend, our final rumours is that Nikita Mazepin could be on his way to Haas next season. And this is a rumour that is certainly a little bit left of field, but seems to be gaining more and more traction as the weeks go on in the build-up to Haas announcing their drivers. Mazepin has been so much better this year in Formula 2, moving to high-tech. Teammate Luca Giotto certainly isn't going to be an easy matchup, but has certainly had the measure of his far more experienced teammate. There have been mistakes, there have been outbursts, but on pure pace, he's been pretty nifty this season. Is he Mick Schumacher and Callum Ilott levels? Certainly not. Robert Schwartzman levels, I think Schwartzman edges him out as well. But what Mazepin does bring is, first of all, financial backing, which for a team like Haas that were considering pulling out of Formula 1, that would be a massive help for the entire team. But also something he doesn't bring is a Ferrari Junior badge. And I just wonder if that might play into his favour. I know it's a weird thing to say, but this is all going to depend on how much Haas want to rely on Ferrari. We all know this year has been terrible for Ferrari. That engine is abysmal. Maybe Haas are just considering their options a little bit. Maybe they're looking elsewhere at the likes of Renault that are losing their partnership with McLaren. And for next season, Alpine are going to be the only team with a Renault engine. They're quick in a straight line. They're far more reliable than they've ever been. And maybe Haas are just considering their options a little bit for 2022 and not wanting to tie down their long-term future with Ferrari. Gene Haas also has been very open to the fact he wants his team to be a team of proper racers. He doesn't really like the idea of being a B team, and I know that sounds ridiculous considering the amount of parts they buy from Ferrari, but the team have always stood strong in the fact they want to be proper racers. Though, if you want to stick with that mantra, that's all well and good, but if you want to be real racers, if you want to go racing properly, you want the best drivers. Callum Ilott is a better driver than Nikita Mazepin. Hulkenberg, Magnussen and Grosjean, I believe, to be better drivers than Nikita Mazepin. But I do think change is needed at Haas. And whereas a couple of weeks ago it seemed to be nailed on Ilott and Hulkenberg, maybe Perez would get that seat, everything this weekend just seems to be blown into the open, and Formula 1 silly season, where it appeared to be coming to a close, seems to be more open than ever. I'd love to know your thoughts in the comments section down below. Will Perez get that move to Williams? What's going to happen to George Russell next season? Gasly to Alpine? Who's going to be at Haas? Schumacher in? It's carnage. thank you all for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of Transfer Talk. A little bit more gossipy and rumoury than I normally do, so I'd love to know a bit of feedback in the comments section. Thank you guys for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next one.